We are broadcasting live on this very special Tuesday, and welcome to the weekly rundown, guys. And tonight is going to be a very, very special show because it is actually going to be the final show for 2017, and what a great way to kick off our final show for 2017 with having our good friend, and who we miss very, very much. We love him so much, man. He's our brother from another mother. He is my undercover lover, and
no, I'm not.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the show. It's the Professor, Michael Benson. What's going on, buddy? How are you doing?
How y'all doing? Good. I'm actually doing pretty good.
Good, man. Good, and it's a pleasure to have you here tonight. Also joining us all the way from good old Cocoa Beach is our good buddy Kevin the X-Men Tape, who's been standing in over the past couple of weeks. And man, we've been talking a lot about you on the show, Mike.
Have you?
Yeah, you just
pretty much every week, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much every single week we talk about you.
That's why my ears burn every Tuesday night.
Hey, listen, it's either your ears are burning or your palms are getting really, really itchy.
Hopefully my hair start growing with it. I mean, my goodness.
So, guys, it's been a great run this year. A lot of cool stuff has happened with the program. We finally moved into the new studio. This is actually the Professor's very first time actually doing a show in the new studio. How do you like it?
I like it. The studio looks really good. I knew it was going to look good anyways from, the plans when I was here when we first bought the house and built the studio, but everything came together really well.
Just for you, baby. He came in the studio, was like, "What the hell is this couch that I'm sitting on?" He was waiting for the nice office chairs that used to kill us back. I was like, "Listen, dude, I want to make you a little bit more comfortable. You got a little bit more freedom over there."
Yeah, I feel like I'm in my car.
Like Howard Stern.
It's like I got the mic in front of me. I got a bench seat, and I got a place to sip my coffee. I mean, come on, I'm set.
So let's play a little catch up here. It's been a little while. So, Mike, you want to go ahead and give everybody an update on what's been going on with you, man?
Yeah, been dealing with chemotherapy. Been dealing with surgery and biopsies and scans, and started working a little part-time job to stay busy and keep my mind off what's going on. And I got involved in my church and had a life change take place. I found God. I was saved. I'm a born-again Christian. I was baptized, had a water baptism. I went through a course called the Cleansing Stream, which helps you kind of find out who you are and how to look back on your past of what you were and who you were, and how to make changes to be a better person. And I mean, you guys, you wouldn't realize, but I mean, I really feel like a different person. I mean, I feel clean. I feel peaceful. I'm at one with God. If God decides it's my time, I'm ready to go. I'm not worried about the mistakes that I made in the past. I don't dwell on them anymore. I've gotten rid of a lot of baggage, and the Cleansing Stream is all about connecting with God and how to do it the right way and how to live the right way. And we actually did a retreat. Once the class is over, you do a retreat. Now this retreat makes you visit all these different aspects in your life that have held you back from being a better person, not just being one with God, but I mean it's a whole snapshot on your background and your history, and how you might have done certain things, or you have certain things that you're dealing with and fighting with internally, that you just don't know how to handle. Well, once you let power of prayer take over and help you cope with those mechanisms of how to deal with these things, it's a big relief off your shoulders, off your internal system. I left that retreat drained physically, mentally. I mean, every part of me was drained, and slept like a baby for the first time in a long time. I mean, I was just exhausted. And I didn't do anything physical, but I was physically drained. So just want to let everybody know that this course I took really made me look at who I was and how I was acting towards people, towards my friends, towards my family, towards how I treated people in the past. So I was able to forgive myself and forgive others, and drop all and just let all that baggage go, and learn to love God and let God love me for a change, and I'm changed.
That's good for you, man. It's
made a difference. It's made a big difference.
So, question for you. So, does that mean all those baths I gave you before, does that don't ever count?
All that's washed away, man.
Oh, man.
It's gone.
Damn it.
Even the water.
And he's forgiven you for firing him.
Yes. Yeah, well, I haven't forgiven him for that, but
You don't forgive me for firing him like 3 times this year.
but yeah, that's kind of what I've been going through. You know, for 2 hours every Sunday. You know, and then a whole day at a retreat, and then I've been also that in mind. I started coaching a baseball team. I really wanted to give something to the kids, and try to help coach. So I started coaching a baseball team with a friend of mine that I worked with, and that very rewarding feeling when you can teach someone else something and give them a confidence in what they're doing. As a coach, you're basically teaching and coaching. So you're teaching these kids how to be young adults and how to take responsibility for what they do and how they play, but yet also maybe shape some children in the process, in the right way, in the right manner, to want to, be the best they can be and have a sense of accomplishment. So I did that also, and we have 2 more games. We're in first place. This week, play Wednesday and Saturday. We win. They win their division, so I'm grateful.
Awesome. Listen, man.
Well, why don't you give the team a shout out? What's the team's name?
My team. Well, it's not the Red Sox, so I'm a little upset by that. But it's the Braves, so I can deal with it.
All right.
So it's the West Volusia Dixie League Braves.
So it's not the Yankees or anything like that? Right?
No, it's
No, Mike wouldn't have coached it for the Yankees. He does have standards.
No, that won't happen. I have standards. It would be 11 to 13 age group also is what the age group is.
That's a tough age too. Those kids they're not kids anymore, and they're not, quite teenagers yet. That's a tough age to be.
It's a very impressionable age where every little thing they're visual, man. They pick up on everything.
Well, that age, I mean, we know we have scouts in our troop that they join at age 10, and from 10 to 13 are the years that you've really got to make an impression on them, or you could lose them.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not lose them in a bad way, but just you don't have them around the troop anymore. Or they just sort of wander off and they're gone, and that's a really tough age to be a kid.
Well, you know what I found with the team, that the hardest thing at that age is getting them to focus on one thing at a time. They're trying to focus on 6 different things. I just want to, you're trying to get them to just focus on that one thing you're talking about, and their mind's racing elsewhere. They're all ADHD.
Well, they're a product of kind of their environment too, because what I've noticed in education is that kids that have grown up with this new digital age, well, not so new anymore, but they're so used to having so many sensory inputs going on at once, and they seem to think they can handle them all. So they tend to try and multitask more than they're really able to.
Oh, certainly. And I feel like a babysitter in the dugout. During the game, I'm the bench coach. So one of the bench coaches, and it's like I tell them, guys, I'm not here to be your babysitter. And girls, I got 2 girls on the team. I said, I'm not here for you to disrespect and disbehave. I said, I'm here to coach the game with you and teach you about the game, not be your mom and daddy while you're on the bench. And I'm constantly talking to them. So now, they know. They say, oh, yes. Because I'll say at the end of practice, I'll say, so what are we going to do on Saturday? We're going to behave in the dugout. I said, you speak a good game, but can you do what you're saying you're going to do? And so we're still working with those issues.
Yeah, those issues. Yeah, and it's interesting because if you can catch a kid early enough, like I know plenty of kids who, when they were in elementary school, they were fine. There was no behavioral issues or anything like that. I mean, my son has his own issues. Behavior is not one of them, but that's partly because of the way he was raised. And you can tell that some kids that have parents who are active, they're not as much of a behavior issue as the rest. But man, 11 to 13, even 14, those behaviors only get amplified because they get bigger. And as they get bigger, those behaviors become more pronounced. Well, and it's tough.
Well, it's funny. I told them all we were running the other day. They were running, and I said, look, I can't run like this right now. I said, I can't run because of my health. I said, but don't let me show you up out here. I said, I'm such and such an age, and I'm going through this, and you know what I'm going through. So don't let me show you up out here. You need to make sure you're doing what you need to be doing, you know. And they just look at me like their eyes get real big, like, oh, you know, what's he saying? You know, they kind of understand, but they don't understand.
And that's when Mike came out and said, "Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? I'm Professor."
Yeah, I don't talk about the radio show with them. You know, that's too much above their head.
I know.
That'd be too much on them.
I'm the man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah,
The myth
Now,
and
so-
the legend, yes.
Yeah, see what happens when they turn 14, at least boys anyway. We have this thing called the fumes, and boys are overcome by fumes when they hit 14, 15. Perfume and gas fumes, because they all want to drive and they're all into girls.
Oh,
so,
I thought you were talking like fart fumes.
No. See, the thing of it is that if you can get a Boy Scout if you can get them to Star, which is 2 ranks below Eagle,
that was
they
where
usually
I finished with Star.
they usually stay if you can get them to Star. If you get them past those first 2 years of Scouts, they generally will stay until they age out. But it's getting them past those first 2 years that's the hard part. Because, again, they have so many things going on and so many things they want to be into. And if they're not well on their way to being an Eagle Scout by 15, the chances are a little bit less that they make it.
Life is before Star, right? Or is
Life
after
is
Star?
after. Life is after.
After, okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, Ryan is Life. His next step is Eagle, and we'll see if he makes it there.
Yeah, that was, you know, that was one of my biggest regrets as a kid, was not being able to finish Boy Scouts because my mom and my stepfather divorced. My first stepfather divorced, and he was Scout leader. So, you know, when that took place, we just kind of dissipated, and so I never went back, but I'd love to get my Eagle badge.
Yeah, see, and that's that. You hear that a lot from guys who were in Scouts who made it so far, and then they're like, "Why didn't I finish? You know, what happened that I didn't finish?" And it's tough because I think only 1 in 100 Scouts makes Eagle.
Yeah, it's not many.
It's a fairly significant accomplishment. It's kind of, you know, the Girl Scouts have their Gold Star Award that's similar, and it's equally difficult to get.
So what do you think of them talking about joining the Girl Scouts and the Boy Scouts as one?
Well, I think what's happening right now is that the Boy Scouts have elected to allow girls to form Cub Scout packs. So it's not the Girl Scouts joining the Boy Scouts, which would make a ton of sense if you ask me. Because, you know, one of the things that I've talked to Girl Scout leaders about this whole movement, and they're not too happy that the Boy Scouts are doing it, and the Boy Scouts aren't too happy that they're doing it either. It's just the national leadership has decided that rather than face a lawsuit from, you know, girls who want to join Boy Scouts, they've just decided to go ahead and start all-girl troops and packs. You know, I have no issue with that, but I think, you know, we really should be looking at a combination of our resources, because there are things that Girl Scouts do much better than Boy Scouts, and one of those is fundraise. I mean, the Girl Scouts, their cookie drive, you know, nothing the Boy Scouts do comes even close. You know, we run 2 main fundraisers a year, and they don't get anywhere near what Girl Scout cookies do, even combined. And Girl Scouts, you know, they want to do things like some of the things Boy Scouts do, like the shooting sports, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Girl Scouts doesn't have a shooting program. They don't have NRA certified instructors. They don't have
here's
a pistol
something
or rifle.
I want to add to this, that, you know, there's a win-win in everything. And the win-win for me, as far as what they do, you're right. You know, the cookies and the shooting events and stuff. They could still be separate, but yet together when they're doing these functions, like shooting. They could involve each other and partner up with this stuff, but still remain a separate entity at the same time, and still can join their fundraising efforts together. And some of the badges that they're merit badges that they go out and get for shooting, and some certain special skill merit badges that are out there. They could combine their efforts at the same time, and especially jamborees and such. You know.
Oh yeah.
You know, that could all be combined, but, you know, they still need to have their separatism, I think.
Well, and the Girl Scout leaders and I that have spoken, we've all agreed that, the one merit badge that the Girl Scouts offer that is way better than anything the Boy Scouts have is their salesmanship badge.
Oh, yeah.
And their salesmanship program is second to none. And, I've said I don't understand why a Girl Scout can't earn the Boy Scout merit badge for rifle shooting or pistol or shotgun or anything if they want to. I don't see why that should be a problem, because the Girl Scouts are going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars putting together a shooting program when the Boy Scouts already do it. So why not, why not? But they're not. Here's something most people don't know, is that the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts have zero affiliation. The Girl Scouts are not members of the World Scouting Organization, whereas the Boy Scouts are. And in a lot of countries, there's not a Boy Scout and a Girl Scout. There's just Scouts, and they're all together.
And this is my problem with this. It's the political correctness. Because other countries do it, we have to do it? Come on. I mean, we are America for a reason.
Right. And I have, again, the thing of it is that I coordinate campouts. And when I coordinate a camp out, I have to make sure that I have a certain number of adults going on the camp out.
Exactly.
And generally speaking, a female leader will always be accompanied by a male leader. There's very rarely an instance, actually never since I've been doing it, where two female leaders have led the entire camp out. There's always a male and a female leader. But not all troops are like that. We're very fortunate in that we have an extremely active group of female leaders, which is a blessing for us, because it would be difficult if we just had to depend on the guys in the troop. I mean, they're an active group of guys, but they can only be asked to do so much.
Well, yeah, scout moms and stuff like that, you need them.
Yeah. So the thing I'm concerned about is, if we do campouts, how's that going to work with our two-deep leadership? Because we have a two-deep leadership policy for a reason. And that is to make sure that no adult is ever alone with a scout for any reason, unless it's their own child. And
for good reason. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, on the surface of it, I'm not opposed to the whole idea. I just think it kind of undercut the Girl Scouts, because I think they already do a good job with raising women leaders. There are many Girl Scouts who come out of that program who are fantastic leaders, and that's what they're there for. They're there just like the Boy Scouts. The mission is no different. We're there to produce tomorrow's young leaders. That's what we do. And the Girl Scouts do a phenomenal job of it, and the Boy Scouts do a phenomenal job on their end. And I think taking what the two programs offer, the best of both worlds, and combining them together would only create a much stronger program. But I think what gets in the way is the national organizations and the money, because the Girl Scouts raise a ton of money selling cookies, and I'm not sure they want to split that. But I don't think they should have to. I think there's a way to work this out to where it's a win-win for everybody, and it just, it will create one stronger organization rather than...
Well, I mean, let's look at the military. Let's call it a joint liaison. I mean, they are who they are. They're separate, but they're a joint liaison, and they work together.
Right. I mean, it's the Girl Scout leaders that I've spoken to feel like the Boy Scouts are trying to take something away from their program. But, in reality, I'm not going to out the person who started this, because she's a kid. But there was a kid in Pennsylvania who wanted to be a Boy Scout, but she couldn't because she's a girl. And she really wanted to be a Boy Scout because all her brothers were Boy Scouts. So I think in the end they decided to avoid a lawsuit and just start up girl troops and girl packs. So, a lawsuit could have been very expensive for them, and they would have ended up having to do it anyway.
Well,
why not just save the money and do it?
And that's where the problem is. Once again, we have political correctness. Oh, because there's a lawsuit and she wants to, we're going to have to do it because we don't want to be sued.
Right.
Frivolous lawsuits, once again. Now, going about it in the right manner and getting votes and organizations to vote upon something like that would be the right way to do it versus, I'm going to sue, or worried about being sued because of it, because then you create the animosity from both sides at that point.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? So
That's
then
right.
You never have the win-win. So, I mean, like I said, there's a win-win in everything out there. And if they approach it in the right manner, both sides stand to gain from it.
Right. And the most important thing out of all of this is that, there are kids at stake, and we need to make sure we're meeting the needs of the kids.
Well, it's about the children. It's not about the adults.
Yeah. Right, but I think all too often it's made to be about the adults and what their comfort level is and what their wants and desires are, and it's a little less about the kids sometimes.
Well, that's not. But what I'm saying is the true meaning of Girl Scout, Boy Scout is girl, boy.
Oh yeah,
about the kids.
Exactly. But I don't think the national organization sees it that way. I think at the local level we do a really good job about making it about the kids.
Well, maybe
but I think
maybe,
the national
maybe change is needed at the national level.
That's what I'm trying to say.
I'll say it. You don't.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Don't put yourself in way. I'll do it for you. Because I feel I have the right to have that voice and opinion because my stepfather was a Boy Scout leader and I was a Boy Scout, so I think I have a little bit of input there.
I agree because I think that's what needs to happen is there needs to be a change at the top and there needs to be somebody with common sense up there making some decisions.
I mean, any major corporation, you look at what works, what doesn't, you make changes as needed as you go. If you don't make changes, you become stagnant, and that's kind of what's happening. They become stagnant, and it needs to change. So
that's right. Well, the reality is that both the Girl Scouts and the Boy Scouts are on a downturn membership-wise. More so in the Boy Scouts than the Girl Scouts. Why, I don't know, but we're in a downturn in membership, and whatever we can do to bring that up, I guess that's what we're trying. Which
leads us into what I want to talk about next, real quick, if it's okay.
Go for it.
And then we can go to your topic that you had, because you have a good topic. The NFL, in their pursuit to allow kneeling during the national anthem, whether you're for it or against it, it's affecting many, many people. I got an article here that a post that somebody wrote on a friend of mine's page, and it talks about Anheuser-Busch is taking calls about whether it should pull their sponsorship of the NFL football. They are upset about the way certain NFL players and teams won't show their respect for our national anthem, our flag, and our country. Anheuser-Busch employs 1,100 veterans. Get this now. Anheuser-Busch employs 1,100 veterans. What people fail to realize, Anheuser-Busch is one of the #1 selling beverages on all military constellations across the world. Not the United States, the world.
Right.
They have a very high market share in our U.S. government. So, that being said, the military kind of dictates what Anheuser-Busch thinks a lot of times because it makes them a lot of money. So, not only that, they have their employees as veterans. They have a veterans hiring program. So, the rest... I'm trying to pull up this article real quick. Hold on.
That's all right.
Come on, enlarge.
Well, so while you're looking for that, let me go ahead and provide some back-end
trying to get this
details here. Originally, last season during the preseason, Colin Kaepernick, then quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, decided to sit during the national anthem because he felt like people of color, those are his words, not mine, people of color were being mistreated in the United States by the police, and he wanted to shed light on that. So he sat. A veteran who plays football for, I want to say it was the Arizona Cardinals, but I'm not sure, spoke to him, and then he took a knee after that. And of course, that started the whole protest of, well, what originally it was, again, was the police brutality toward people of color in the United States and how Kaepernick felt like, you couldn't be a person of color in the U.S. and not be fearful of the police. That's how it started. Now, it spawned into equality and, equal treatment under the law and things like that. But what happened out of that was that people saw it as an affront to patriotism and the flag. Now, those protesting will tell you, you don't know what you're talking about. If that's what you got out of it, then you got the wrong thing out of it. But what they fail to realize is that, to each his or her own, and our perception is our perception. You have a perception, and we respect that you have that perception, but you need to respect that we also have a perception. And that perception is that you're dishonoring the flag. But what really drew the ire of the American people was, two things really, and one sort of caused the other. Donald Trump made a statement about the players and how they should be fired. I didn't agree with his use of the language. I didn't agree with calling them SOBs, but whatever. That's
they
his
have
style.
they have their right to protest, and you know what? The president has a right to say what he thinks.
And exactly, and he said what he thought. But
Hold
for
on,
me,
but
what did it?
Not to cut you off, but is it professional the way the president came off?
Well,
No,
would
it
it be
wasn't.
professional the way the players are doing it? They're doing it on.
Well-
They're doing it on their owner's time. They're doing
see,
it on
and
the
that's-
clock. They're not.
That's
getting
yet
paid to
another
do that.
issue that people. That's yet another issue that people don't understand is that, at work you follow your employer's rules. And when I worked for Bank of America, I was not allowed to have anything on my desk that was political,
Religious.
or religious.
Right.
I was not allowed to have any of that on my desk because, again, if they didn't want. Were they insulted by religion? No. Were they anti-religious? No. It was that they did not want anything to distract you from doing your job. You were allowed to have one item, one personal item on your desk, and one picture on your wall. That was it. The picture had to be of someone you knew. It could not be Ronald Reagan or Jimmy Carter or any other political person.
Right,
But
which
so,
would probably be said for 90% of the businesses in America.
Right. So for me, after Trump's statement, for me, what did it was, I'm a Jaguar fan. I'll admit it. They were playing a game in London that following Sunday after his comments, and they chose to stand for "God Save the Queen" and then kneel for the national anthem on foreign soil.
Exactly.
That bothered me.
That's a total disrespect for the flag and the country.
Right, because up to that point, I said, fine, if you want to protest at home, good for you, go for it. Whatever you want to do, fine by me. I'll take whatever action I need to take on a personal level. But having been a military dependent and lived overseas, you respect it. And the crazy thing is I had a friend who attended that game in London, and he had no idea. He sent me a message during the anthem going, what in the heck is going on? We're all standing for the national anthem, and you got these guys kneeling. Are we supposed to kneel or what? So it confused the fans, for one thing, in a foreign country. People who weren't involved.
So is the owner, Khan, the owner of the Jaguars, is he an immigrant?
Yes, he's
Is
an
he a
immigrant
nationalist?
from Pakistan. He's an
Pakistan.
immigrant from Pakistan.
So how long has he been here? As an actual, is he a U.S. citizen?
Yes, he's a U.S. citizen. He arrived at the age of 16 or 17. Attended the university.
And he's built his nest on the back of the United States people, who allowed him to come over here freely and his family to this country and become a citizen.
He became a citizen, and he
So
made
he
his
allowed
fortune
his
in
team
bumpers.
to disrespect the country on foreign soil. Doesn't make sense.
And but see, in a sense, he didn't do that because all he did was stand arm in arm with his players in a show of unity. He stood with his players. Now he allowed his players to kneel.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, again, kneeling on foreign soil, I got an issue with that.
Sometimes the hardest thing to do is take a stand that is not popular amongst your employees.
Right. So basically, what this has done is it's put the NFL in between a rock and a hard place, because the NFL,
well as multiple other owners.
Right, because your team last year wanted to honor 5 Dallas police officers who lost their lives to one of these crazy people and put a sticker on the back of their helmet. Well, the NFL said, no, you can't do that. But then if you look to this year, what did you see on the back of the Houston Texans helmets and the Dallas Cowboys helmets after Hurricane Harvey? What did you see? A sticker honoring the victims of Hurricane Harvey, right?
But it was allowed.
but that was allowed.
Because they weren't police officers.
Right, and then you look at an NFL player who wanted to wear purple cleats for domestic violence awareness during warm-ups, and he was told no. Well, wait a minute, don't we have an issue in the NFL with domestic violence? And we have an NFL player that wants to bring awareness to domestic violence by wearing purple cleats. What message are we sending there? The message is it's not okay for you to bring awareness to domestic violence, but it sure as heck okay for you to beat your girlfriend.
Right.
I mean, that's the message I got out of that.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem. Double standards. Or
when Tebow got hammered for kneeling in the end zone after scoring a touchdown.
To praise God.
And then Robert Griffin III got told to turn around a T-shirt that said something about Jesus.
Yeah.
So, but to me, and then you have the people who say, well, it's their right to free speech to kneel. Well, these other guys didn't have their right to free speech. So is it selective? I mean, okay, so it's a uniform violation, and kneeling isn't a uniform violation. Okay, you're splitting hairs.
Well, exactly. So it comes down to the bottom line that it's who the NFL picks and chooses that it's okay for. So there's a double standard in the NFL hierarchy as far as the commissioner's office goes.
Right, and that's the bottom line.
So now Anheuser-Busch is telling them, okay, if you wanna play that game and we pull our sponsorship, we'll put a hurting on you like you've never seen.
Yeah, well, I mean,
if they do it, it's going to happen.
And
that's a lot of sponsorship money that they're not going to have, and that's a lot of power. Because think about it in these terms: how many military people watch football games? How many military people drink Anheuser-Busch? And how many military people have been disrespected because they're military by this? How they felt about this?
Right. I mean, you can even look at it think about how much these TV contracts cost.
Oh yeah.
You know, NBC, ESPN, and CBS and Fox have shelled out.
Well, that's all the
billions
fake news.
of
That's all the fake news media. That's all the liberal left who it's okay with them. That's their norm. I mean, you have people who really most of your military don't feel that way. Most of people who follow that don't feel that way.
My point is that these networks have shelled out billions of dollars, and they were watching their profit margins shrink and shrink and shrink because their viewership numbers have been down for the last 2 seasons. You know, last year they blamed it on the presidential election, that people were paying more attention to that than they were football. But in reality, the protests started last year, so you could say that it was a combination of both. You know, I for one last year watched way more football because I was sick and tired of the politics. So I would have thought that it would have worked the other way around, that their ratings would have gone up because people are sick and tired of hearing about Trump and Clinton. Well, you know, now ESPN is in a world of hurt right now because they've shelled out billions of dollars for these sports products, and the viewership is dropping for a multitude of reasons, not the least of which is people are cutting the cord with cable and they're simply not watching ESPN. And they're not getting that guaranteed revenue stream.
You want to know why I cut the cord to ESPN? You want to know why I cut the cord to ESPN? When they started slamming me with political opinions on ESPN, I watch it for sports. I don't watch it for their political opinions or their views on politics.
Exactly. I mean, I'm with you on that because I used to love watching First Take.
I did too. But
I used to love watching Skip Bayless go at it with Stephen A. Smith. I think they're both really smart guys. But when it started to get political, I said, you know what? I don't need this. If I want that, I can watch, Hannity, or I can watch Wolf Blitzer, or I can watch any of these people and get the same thing, and they actually know what they're talking about.
Exactly.
Well, sort of.
No, you're right. You're right 100%, I feel. Okay, Kevin, I'm going to put this number out there, then we can move on to your topic if you'd like. Spend some good time on your topic here.
Sure.
All right, Anheuser-Busch, if you call this number with Anheuser-Busch, 1-800-342-5283, wait for the prompt, and I think you hit the number 1 prompt, and it'll go right to their answering line, and you can leave your message of what your feelings are on whether they should pull out based on what's going on in the NFL as far as their sponsorship goes. this is a major way that they're going to make a decision on. So leave your opinion and go ahead and call that number and hit that prompt. I'm going to tomorrow. And I think it needs to be done. If you're an NFL fan, even if you're not and you want to weigh in on it, that's how you voice your opinion.
Hey, listen, I got a great idea. I think Anheuser-Busch should sponsor our program. That would be amazing.
I think it would be great if they'd pour their millions of dollars into our program.
That would be amazing. Then we can all retire officially, and we would be settled for the rest of the life. But speaking of sponsorships, before we go on to Kevin, today's show is brought to you in part by our great friends at XSplit. If it wasn't for them guys giving us this beautiful broadcasting software for free, we wouldn't be here today. So thank you so much to our great friends at XSplit. If you guys want to get your copy of XSplit, head over to xsplit.com and get your copy today. So with that being said, Kevin, it is all yours, my friend.
So last week we talked a little bit. We're going to tie two topics together, and Mike didn't have the benefit of listening. Maybe he listened last week. I don't know. But we talked about social media being the sort of the judge, jury, and executioner kind of thing that social media was taking over, how we view things. Well, I've been watching, and we talked about the sexual allegations last week. We talked about Harvey Weinstein, and we talked about a couple of the other cases out there, but it seems like there's more and more and more of these cases coming out of the woodwork. And, my take on it is kind of that we need to pump the brakes a little bit because, I'm not saying that none of this happened. So don't get mad at me, ladies. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that we need to be very careful when we make public accusations because public accusations can lead to unintended consequences. And what I'm saying is that I think if there's an issue, it should be taken up privately and dealt with through legal channels rather than in social media. And specifically, I'm referencing a tweet by Rebel Wilson where she claims, and I'm not going to say it didn't happen. I don't know if it did or it didn't, but she claims that a male co-star asked her to do something to him that was rather disgusting. And there were probably 10,000 tweets after that asking her to out that person so that they could deal with it. And I find that a bit frightening. I think we need to pump the brakes a little bit. What do you guys think?
Yeah, maybe they should pump the brakes a little bit. What do you think, Lewis?
Oh, this isn't my show.
I don't care if it's your show or not.
No, I guess what I'm trying to say is that
I'm supposed to be hiding in the dark here.
Repeat it for him.
Let me put it to you this way. All right, as a teacher in a classroom, okay, if a student were to go to their parents and say that I touched them, there's a process that they would go through, and it would all be done behind the scenes until something needed to be made public. And in the meantime, my life would be hell, yes, but ultimately, if I was vindicated, then that would be that. If it was something more, I might end up on the news. Yeah. But what we have going on now is we have somebody out someone at a Me Too rally, and they out them in public, and now they're the center of attention, and they have no way to defend it because they've now been outed publicly. Whether they did it or not, we don't know. No one knows except the two of them. And we now have people hunting for their careers. And I think that's a bit frightening because now we have this mob mentality of, okay, now I read a thing the other day that George Takei has been accused of doing something inappropriate. Now people are after him. It's like, can we not do this in a responsible way that solves it for everybody?
And you know what? Sometimes, especially as of late, I've been feeling like, started off with the whole Bill Cosby thing. Then went on to another actor. And then now on to another actor. Now I'm feeling like people are just coming out just to come out. And whether it's true or not, we talked about this last week, on last week's show too, like you stated. Do we know if this really happened or not? Don't know. But, putting out these allegations, whether it's true or not, you can actually hurt somebody's career. And, their well-being. You could ruin their family. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't know. It's a very touchy subject. and it's one that, and like the Kevin Spacey guy, you know, the actor. I loved him as an actor, but unfortunately, you know, things happen, and he didn't really deny it. You know, he said he wasn't really aware of the situation. He did come out and apologize, saying, "Hey, listen, you know, this did happen, you know, so many years ago. You know, I'm so sorry." But didn't you say last week, Kevin, that also he mentioned that there was something that happened maybe a year or two ago with someone else?
Yeah, I think that was a year or two ago that something else happened with him.
Was that in a homosexual act?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I believe so. He's come out of the closet. So
yeah, well, I don't think we had to worry about him coming out. He was already out. He just didn't publicly say it.
Right.
I mean, if you didn't know better, you know.
I mean, because what we could also look at is not that many years ago there was a case in North Carolina where the lacrosse team at Duke was accused of raping a woman.
Exactly.
And
yes.
as a result of her accusation, the entire lacrosse team was suspended. The entire lacrosse team season was canceled, and these guys lived in hell for over a year, and it turned out not to be true. So it seems to me that I don't know. I don't want to downplay what people are feeling.
Here's my feelings on this,
I don't want to downplay that at all.
And DJ Friktion. The public shaming that's going on this is public shaming in its greatest sense. You know, the news comes out before doing any investigation because of a few accusations, and all of a sudden it's all over the news. And really, there's been no evidence of anything on any part so far on a lot of these cases except for Weinstein.
Weinstein?
Weinstein, whatever you want to call him. And the worst part about that is that's been going on for years and everybody's known about it. Nobody nobody wanted to be the first one to say anything about it. Why? Because it was Hollywood. And it meant them not making money. Sometimes you got to take the high road and do the right thing. Second, whenever a woman is assaulted, be it domestic violence, be it from boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, a guy is assaulted, whatever the case, you need to go make and file a report so it's on record. That's the only way to prove that it happened then and you went in and these are the facts, because that's when they're fresh. Don't come to me 40 years later and tell me you were assaulted.
And that's kind of what's happening now with Roy Moore in Alabama, is that, you know, people are now coming out 35, 40 years later. You know, they feel empowered to do so. And, you know, I'm glad they feel empowered. But again, I mean, what is there a statute of limitations on it?
And they had somebody in the room at the same time. It's their word against his.
Well, isn't it also that?
And hold on. And that's the problem with it. I have no problem supporting these women. But show me some proof before I castrate a man for something he may or may not have done.
Right.
And vice versa if it was a woman against a man.
And my issue with Hollywood is that, you know, we're going to talk about this, and we're going to talk about sexual assault, but then we're going to see the product that you put on television in the movie theaters.
Exactly.
So, I mean, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You know, you're either going to put out morally responsible products that don't depict women being assaulted and women being abducted and women being harassed. If you're going to put that out, then you have to take some of the responsibility. I'm going to tell you who loses from all this.
The children of today's society. Because what are they seeing and hearing? The adults have to be morally correct when they're making decisions, not inept as far as how they're doing things, because the kids are following suit on this. They don't know what's right and what's wrong, so they're emulating everything they see or hear. And that's where I think the disconnect is. These families do not understand. It creates a pattern of reproduction on a continual basis, and it never gets fixed. That's exactly correct. Because when you watch movies where you have an assault that happens during the movie, what is that? What are you doing there? What are you showing people?
okay, so the underlying thing is that it's not acceptable, but they're still witnessing that.
Yeah.
They're still seeing that. They're still seeing that image, that series of images that creates an impression in their minds. I'm not trying to be the moral police here. I'm not trying to say, you need to be morally responsible and put out stuff that's, sunshine and rainbows. But you do need to be careful about what you're putting out in society because you bear some of the blame. You honestly do.
Hey, everybody, and I don't care who you are, and I'm telling, and if you disagree with me, I'll challenge you on it. Tell me you didn't make a mistake in your lifetime. Tell me you didn't say the wrong thing in your lifetime, because I have so many times, and I'll admit it. I was not a good person for a long time. Didn't realize it, but I do now. But I never assaulted anybody. I never molested anybody. Right. I made a few comments that I shouldn't have made.
Right.
But I never did any of those things. But it doesn't make it right to degrade a woman, and it doesn't make it right to degrade a man, and it doesn't make it right to degrade anybody in that aspect. And we need to teach our children this, because the total factor is it's a total breakdown of the family unit that has caused this.
That's very true. That's very true, because if what kids are seeing is mom being mistreated by the boyfriend who's there and not, then what's their idea of normal?
Normal. They don't know what normal is.
Right.
The mother, the father, family unit, and not to say it was great 40 years ago when I was a kid, okay? And I don't mean my family, no family, because there was enough abuse in my family that I had to live with and deal with. But I say it on that part. I know that it was there. It's going to be there now. But we have to learn from our past to predict a better future for our children.
Right.
We don't repeat the same pattern, and then our children are repeating the same pattern. What do you think about that, Kevin?
I agree with that. I agree 100%, because you see it every day in classrooms. I mean, if you walk into an elementary school classroom or a middle school classroom or a high school classroom, you can almost tell what kind of scene they see at home.
Kevin, not even that. When I'm teaching college girls, in most of my classes, 30, 40 girls in my class, I could look around the room and tell you abuse, physical, mental, blow, all the way. I mean, just throughout. It was just, it's amazing.
And it's probably these young ladies have seen their mom with no self-esteem at home being mistreated by some guy, and they think that's what's normal. They think that's what's expected of them as a woman. So, is that's the way it's going to be. When it's exactly the opposite. It's, you are somebody and you need to stand up for yourself. And if you're being abused, I know it's easier said than done, but you need to say something, and you need to say it sooner rather than later, because the scars on the outside go away. The ones on the inside don't.
The ones that can't be seen are the worst.
Right. And that's, and you can, like you said, you can tell each little kid I've ever seen that has a problem at home, I can almost pick it out just by the way they act, the way they act with each other, the way they act on their own, if they interact with other people. You can tell. And it's sad to see, because you just know that circle has no break.
But here's part of the problem to that too. A lot of people aren't observant of that, because they're a factor of that, and they block it out.
And there's also those who don't want to see it.
Exactly.
There's also those who flat out don't want to see it, or who don't care because that's not their primary job.
So how do we handle this public shaming that's going on before we have facts and evidence that this is what it is? I thought our journalists and our reporters and our news stations, I thought they used to do a little bit of investigating and do factual finding information, almost investigative reporting, and then they would turn it over to the right people, and those people would basically bring charges or whatever there was before they ever cut the story?
Well, that's all changed, because there's a movie out there that was I think it was a Clint Eastwood movie called The Quick and the Dead.
Yeah.
And nowadays, back when you and I were kids, there were 3 networks: ABC, CBS, and NBC.
Yes.
They had time to go out and do stories because there wasn't a thing called the internet. You know, I jokingly told somebody the other day, when in doubt, ask Google. And that's journalism of 20 years ago is dead, because journalism today is the quick and the dead. The first one to get the story out, that's what it's all about. Whether the story's right or not is inconsequential anymore.
What happened to these agencies being held accountable for their actions?
Well, there is no watchdog group for that except the people. And unfortunately, what happens is that you have an agency that watches over news, but then the agency is accused of being either left or right or this or that. There's no independent agency out there that polices the media. And I'd kind of worry if there was, because that's censorship to a certain extent. But then again, I want truth. I don't want innuendo. I don't want he said, she said. But that's the world we live in, because I've said it before on this program. Anybody with a cell phone now is a journalist. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the Michael Bennett situation in Las Vegas is the prime example. I don't know if you're aware of this story, but he accused the police in Las Vegas of brutality and profiling and all this other stuff, and he got his story out first. Well, as the truth started to trickle out, his version took a few hits, but because it was first, it was the accepted version of the story.
Do you know how old Michael Bennett was?
Not the Ferguson guy. I'm talking about the football player.
Oh, okay. Because I grew up with a kid named Michael Bennett. That's why I was wondering.
Oh no, this Michael Bennett plays for the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah,
he's a defensive player, and he was in Las Vegas after the Conor McGregor fight.
That's right, and he got hit. Or
apparently there were shots outside, and everybody was put to the floor, and his account of the story was a rather frightening version. But as the truth came out and the video came out, his story didn't look so truthful. But because it was first out, it was the one most accepted. Because as often what we've been told in education is, when the story comes out, it's on page 1. The retraction comes out on page 26 on Sunday.
Yeah, so nobody sees it. Yes.
Right. So, and that's where the media is gone. The media isn't about necessarily, it's shoot first, ask questions later.
Well, here's the deal.
Get the story out.
I'm starting to feel like if the media can hold us accountable, it's time we start holding it accountable.
If you can find somebody that can do that, more power to them. Because, you know, unfortunately, what happens is, again, the groups that try and do that all have an agenda. They all have an.
It only took one to move the world, and that was God. Okay,
right.
So it only takes one.
So, and I think that's kind of where we need to go. Is we need to start holding the media accountable for being truthful and not being, misleading. Because again, I look at headlines, and when you read the headline and then you read the story, you're often left wondering where they got the headline from.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, most people read the headline and only the headline, and they form an opinion from there. And then you have tweets and threads on Facebook and threads on Reddit and everywhere else that by the time you read it days later, you have no idea what the story really was to start with. Because, again, people have taken the story and run with it.
Well, I think years ago you used to hear about the positive things that were taking place from the news. Mm. And now, if you turn on the TV and try to watch your local news, it's who was shot, who was hit, who did this, who did that, who went to jail, who's on trial, and you're not hearing about the good stories out there. I think people are so used to hearing about the bad, that's all they expect to hear.
And I would challenge anybody to do just what Mike said. I challenge you to turn on your local news at 10 o'clock, 10:30, 11, or whatever it comes on in your local market, and count the number of dead people that happened before the first commercial break.
Yeah, it's
count
amazing.
The number of shootings, count the number of dead people, count the number of drug arrests, just count the minutes that go by before you get to something positive, which in most cases is the weather, because there's nothing awful about the weather unless there's a hurricane, a blizzard, or some sort of natural disaster.
So true.
So count the number of minutes, and then if you watch the news all the way to the end, buried right before Jimmy Fallon comes on, you've got the fluff piece about the kid at the school whose mother died in a horrific car accident, and the local football star is giving season tickets to the games and a jersey and is adopting him, and they're going to be Daddy Warbucks together. You know, that's when you get the fluff piece at the end, if there's time and no one else gets shot during the newscast.
Yeah, I implore everybody to do that. And then, you know, what you might want to do is call your local news station that you like to listen to and ask them why they're not reporting on about the good things that happen versus all the negative things that happen, that you're tired of the negative news and you're going to turn the station off if they don't make some changes. You might see something take place.
That's right. Tweet at them, post on their Facebook page, give them a call, and just tell them that, you know, until something changes, you're just going to turn them off.
And maybe we can make a little bit more positivity out of it than negativity. Yeah, you know, people don't mind hearing about, you know, so-and-so died and, you know, we're looking for this person or whatever of interest, if you see him, you know, stuff like that. But at least feed us with some good before you hit us with the bad, and hopefully more good than bad.
There's all.
Bruce tuning in right now. He says it's different in Canada. He says not too many shootings.
Well,
no, but everybody's dying of overdoses in Canada, so I mean, I bet you hear about a lot about that, right, Brew?
No, they're driving around naked in cars.
Yeah, driving around naked in cars, but a lot of them are overdosing too. A lot of drug deaths.
In what was it, 18-degree weather? They were driving around naked in a car. That's just insane. You know, and he sent me the link to that story, and I shared it with my wife, and she's like, "What in the heck were they doing?" You know.
Well, we really don't care to know
right.
about that.
She won't even run around in short sleeves in 69-degree weather, so never mind.
What made you pick that number, Kevin?
69.
It just popped out. That's the year I was born.
It just popped out.
I was just wondering.
So.
Never fails.
Yeah, I think that's what I have the thermostat in here set at.
So, Kevin, before we get ready to actually get out of this, you had a very interesting story I read on Facebook today about your experience about some visitors about the hurricane.
Oh, yeah. So I'm coming out of this restaurant, right? And it's called Coasters here in Cocoa Beach. If you get a chance, you need to go. It's a really good place to eat. Good food. So there's a cruise ship in Port Canaveral today, the Norwegian Breakaway. She sails out of New York, and she does Florida and the Bahamas and then goes back to New York. So I'm not too far from Ron John, and this lady walks out, and she's talking to her husband, and she goes, "Man, I'm so shocked that Florida's so trashy. I mean, haven't you noticed all the blown out signs and blown up awnings and stuff?" And I looked at her, and I said, "That's what happens when you have a hurricane that pays you a visit." And she just looked and said, "Oh." And I said, "Yeah, we just had a hurricane a couple of months ago, and they haven't had a chance to fix the signs or the awnings."
Yeah.
She's like, "What the heck is wrong with you?"
People are just idiots.
That tells you how much they pay attention to what's not happening around them.
Well, and then I told her, I said, "Are you having a good cruise?" She said, "Oh, how did you know I was on a cruise?" I said, "Well, for one, you have your badge on a lanyard out in front of you. And so you're advertising that you're not from here and that you're on vacation. And you're probably carrying cash. So you might want to tuck that away so that, you know, somebody that's not as honest as me doesn't take advantage of you." I mean, think about it.
Tourists.
Mike knows this better than anybody. You don't want to, even if you have no idea where you are in a town, you act like you do.
You act like it's your town, like you own the town.
That's right. You carry yourself with that swagger like you belong there, like you know what's up.
That's it.
You don't advertise that you're off the cruise ship, probably carrying cash, have no idea where you are, acting like a crazy person. But that was just funny. I thought that was hysterical. It's
when I read it on Facebook, I was laughing so hard. I was like, "Oh my god, this guy's crazy."
My mouth overrode me. Usually I don't say stuff like that. But for whatever reason, before I knew what I was saying, I was hearing myself say it. It's one of those moments where you're standing across the sidewalk from yourself, and you're watching yourself do this like it's a movie.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching myself say it, thinking, "Did I just say that? Wait, I'm hearing me say that. Wait, no, what? I just said that."
Well, you become your own worst enemy as far as a tourist goes, because you're not even thinking. You're just all in about the moment, and instead of saying, "Oh, I'm out of town. I'm not in my natural environment. I need to make sure that I'm observant of everything around me, and I'm not here to tell everybody I'm a tourist."
Right. And, you don't want to advertise that you're on the cruise ship that just pulled into port. You don't want to do that.
It's bad enough you all just saw me come off the cruise ship, but I'm going to hide what I can when I can,
Right. I mean, the fact that you're in the 24-hour surf shop buying T-shirts for your relatives in Poughkeepsie or wherever it is you live.
Well, that's not the scary part. They're in the United States at this point. I mean, I hate to see them when they're on one of the islands or whatever in another country, or the Bahamas or something like that. It's a totally different world there.
It's a little harder to hide when you're in the Bahamas because pretty much nobody looks like you.
Oh, they're hawks when you come off that boat in the Bahamas.
But that's what I'm saying. So you got to make sure you're observant, at all times, and not have your money out and your badge out. You do the little things, and you hope for the best and go from there. But
I'm not going to try to offend anybody, but as soon as you come off that boat in the Bahamas, you want your hair done? Your hair done?
Hair braid?
You need ride?
You want your hair braid? Oh, lady, you look so nice with your hair braid. Hair braid. Oh, my gosh. You know where it was the worst? It was the worst in Jamaica. I mean, you get off the boat in Jamaica, and they're not offering to braid your hair. They're offering you weed. I kid you not. The pier is the safest place to be because they don't allow locals on the pier. But as soon as you go outside that door, they're asking. They're offering you weed. I mean, they'll tell you too. They'll tell you this is the good stuff. This isn't the stuff we smoke. They'll tell you.
Some ganja, man.
Oh yeah. Hey, but then everywhere you go, they bother you.
Yes.
Everywhere you go, you can't walk down the street without them popping out of the shops, trying to drag you in physically to get you to buy something. I mean, it's insane. And then you go to places like Cozumel. I love Cozumel. It's great. You can buy almost anything you want there. But they'll tell you, "Oh, mister, cheaper than Walmart. Cheaper than Walmart." And my wife says, "Where do you think they got that from?" I said, "Some stupid-ass American who said, I can get that cheaper at Walmart." Sure enough, we get back on the ship, and some guy's telling a story, and he's like, "Yeah, I saw this ring, and I'm sure I could have gotten that cheaper at Walmart." And I looked at her, and I said, "See, there he is, right there."
Well, the problem is, the guy who sold it to you probably did get it at Walmart.
Yeah.
Probably.
Ain't that the truth? But hey, listen, guys, we're heading into the holiday season. Do you guys have any final words to anybody who's listening to this broadcast? And Mike, you haven't been here in a little bit, but so I'm gonna give you the opportunity to go ahead and speak to the listeners who haven't heard from you in a while. So, and then I'll give the floor to Kevin to say his goodbyes and all that good stuff.
I just want to say thanks to everybody out there who sent me all the wishes and prayers, and who follow this show with or without me. Keep following, and hope to see you this coming season. I should be back. Barring any major obstacles, I feel like I'll be here. So just everybody have a safe and happy holiday, and Merry Christmas too.
All right, so Kevin?
Well, for me, it's basically simple, and that is remember why we have the season to start with. It's not about presents. It's not about Santa Claus. It's not about whether you got what you wanted or not. It's not about having days off. It's the reason for the season, and that's that if you're Christian, you believe the Savior was born in December. If you're not, then I guess you have your own reasons. But if you're Jewish, you have Hanukkah. Just remember the reason for your season, and it's not about gifts. You're going to be inundated with commercials and wish lists and people demanding things, but the most important gift you can give someone else is your time. And spend time with your family. They're not around forever, as much as you would like to think they are. They're not. So spend some time with them. Hug them. Tell them how much they mean to you, and just tell them how much you appreciate having them in your life. That's the important thing. Gift wrap that and give it to somebody, and it's priceless, and it costs you nothing, and that will last far longer than the thing you bought at the store in a rush because you weren't sure what you should buy them. Time. Give them time.
So, Kirsten, if you're listening, you're getting a lot of time and a whole lot of nothing else.
She and I gave
Just
she
a
and I
little
gave
funny.
each other.
Just a little
She and I
funny to
gave
add
each
there,
other
that's all.
our Christmas present already. We're going on a cruise on
No,
December 3rd.
I figured you guys had already had a
So-
big present for each other. So
Yeah, Ryan is the one who gets screwed. So Ryan, if you're listening, there's nothing for you.
yeah,
I'm just kidding.
It's okay. You got to bring him to Star Wars Celebration.
yeah.
He asked me in the car this morning when that was happening again, so he could go again. And I told him it wasn't happening until 2019, and I wasn't sure it would be in Orlando.
Yeah.
So we'll
Probably
see.
be in California.
Might be, but there'll be other conventions we can go to.
Yeah, there'll be a few of them.
There's plenty more to come. There's a actual radio convention I'll talk to you guys about at another time. That's actually coming to Orlando. I did it in 2013. It was fun. So I think it'll be a great experience for you guys to both experience.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet.
But with that being said, guys, thank everyone, all the listeners. Thanks to Brew. Thanks to our great friends at Hamilton Radio, Animal House Radio, DJ Danny Show. Thank you guys so much for the love and support you guys have given us over the past year. It's been a great ride. 2018 is going to be a lot more fun for us. We're planning on having Mike back in that seat so we can be a pain in his butt and he can be a pain back in our butt again. It's not the same show without you, man. And we wish you nothing but the best. You know we love you, man. And
Thank
we're
you.
here for you.
Thank you.
But for everybody else, we'll see you guys back on Friday, January the 5th. Kevin's going to go on this cruise. Mike, he's going to enhance his penis somewhere. And as for me, well, I'm probably going to try to lose some weight. And, yeah, we'll see you soon.
Peace.
You guys are just horrible. All right, guys, so stay tuned. iHeart Music Radio Countdown coming on next, babies.